Another one bites the dust. Another one of Trump's enemies and traitors is hoist by his own petard. Just yesterday, a federal grand jury in Maryland indicted John Bolton, the former national security advisor under Trump, on 18 felony counts related to mishandling classified information, including 8 counts of unlawful transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of unlawful retention of national defense information. Each count carries a 10-year federal sentence. Collectively, that's 180 years in prison, obviously. A life sentence plus.
Just indicted by a grand jury in Maryland. Do you have a reaction to that?
I didn't know that. You told me for the first time, but I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but that's the way it goes.
The case against him?
That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. Will I what?
Have you reviewed the case against him?
No, I haven't. But I just think he's a bad person.
One of the complaints you'll hear about from many people on the left who suddenly love John Bolton because, of course, he's in an antagonistic relationship with Trump all of a sudden, is that this violates the norms. They love their norms. People from other administrations were allowed to take home classified information, and they were never punished in this way, taking home classified information so they could write their memoirs. And it appears, by the way, that this is exactly why John Bolton unlawfully retained and leaked this classified information was for the book deal he secured after he was out with Trump and no longer in government service. $1 million book deal. He did it for the money. Bolton stole, retained, leaked this classified information for the money. We're going to read through the indictment, but basically it reveals that Bolton created a diary-like series of entries while he was serving Trump, drawing from handwritten notes, taking them secure White House locations. Those would be Skiffs, secure facilities. He rewrote those on a personal computer, printed them, stored them on unsecured personal devices at his home, where they were accessible to others, the others probably being his wife and daughter who were living with him at the time. These were thousands of pages of documents, including those with a top secret security clearance. And he's accused of transmitting this material through personal non-governmental email accounts like AOL and Google. Google reads every Gmail message, right? The AI just reads it. So it's automatically being read by third parties when you transmit anything via Google. And sharing that information with 2 unnamed individuals. Again, they're called Person 1 and Person 2 in the indictment, as we'll see. But almost certainly, though, those are his wife and daughter. Again, creating a series of 10-year federal felonies for each of them as well. Another thing you'll hear, by the way, from the sudden Bolton defenders is that, when Trump did it, he got away with it. And now he's prosecuting Bolton for it. First of all, these are not comparable circumstances. The president is uniquely authorized under the Constitution to classify or declassify anything he wants on a whim. He doesn't have to fill out a form. He doesn't have to tell anybody else he's doing it. He can just decide in his mind, this document is no longer classified. And then he can keep it even after he's out of office. Of course, he has to make that decision when he's in office, but how would you know? How would you prove otherwise when he's not required to document it and could not be required to document because it's a core and plenary power of the president? That's a unique situation for the president of the United States. No one else has that kind of authority because nobody else is commander-in-chief. No one else is the elected Article 2 executive branch officer responsible for the national security of the United States. Trump could declassify everything in federal government and take it home with him to Mar-a-Lago, as long as he makes that declassification while he's president, and those all become unclassified documents. Bolton doesn't have the authority to do anything of the sort. So when he's bringing classified materials home, he's simply violating the law. So Bolton yesterday pleaded not guilty in his first court appearance. He was released without bail. I mean, really, where's he going to go? He's publicly described this as political retaliation by Trump. This is what they all say. This is what Letitia James says. This is what James Comey says. This is what John Bolton. It's just political retaliation. But note the difference between what's being done to go after Comey and James and Bolton on the one hand, and what they had to do to get Trump. For Bolton, James, and Comey, they just have to point to the actual facts of lawlessness, the fraudulent execution of the mortgages in the case of Letitia James, the various explicit crimes of Comey, all documented, and the obstruction and the perjury. These are not hard crimes to prove. There's recordings of these statements. We can demonstrate they were not true and could not have been believed to be true at the time that Comey said them. And of course, now all these claims about Bolton, which we'll go through in the indictment. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But again, an indictment, to be fair, is not itself evidence. But as we go through this 30-page indictment and you see recitation of fact, recitation of fact, recitation of fact, each of which is a 10-year felony for Bolton, are we to believe that all of these are just pure fabrications without any basis in reality? I somehow doubt it. Bolton was the national security advisor to Trump beginning April 2018 to September 2019, so about a year and a half. National security advisors typically advise the president on all exigent threats to the U.S. and other related issues to national security, including foreign relations, intelligence activities, and decisions regarding the use of military force. As national security advisor, Bolton had access to some of the U.S. government's most sensitive and closely guarded national security secrets. In order to obtain the U.S. security clearance that granted him access to the highly classified information inherent to the job of national security advisor, Bolton signed numerous non-disclosure agreements that acknowledged, among other things, that the unauthorized disclosure of classified information by him could damage or cause irreparable injury to the U.S., and that he would never divulge classified information without prior written notice of authorization from the relevant government agency, and that he would never divulge anything that he knew to be sensitive, compartmented information, SCI, to anyone not authorized to receive it without prior written authorization. And he understood that the unauthorized disclosure of national security information may constitute a violation of U.S. criminal laws. As the national security advisor, Bolton was granted top secret SCI security clearance. Before being appointed national security advisor, Bolton held a U.S. security clearance in some of his prior government positions. Bolton directed and supervised the work of the national security staff on behalf of the president. Bolton had access to and responsible for the safeguarding of the most sensitive national defense information, including classified information. Due to Bolton's need to have ready access to national defense information, including classified information, the U.S. government installed an accredited Skiff sensitive compartmented information facility within Bolton's home, located within the District of Maryland. Imagine what that cost. The Skiff was approved for the processing and closed storage of classified information, including information classified up to top secret. After Bolton's term as national security advisor ended in September 2019, the Skiff in Bolton's home was decertified by the U.S. government. And from that date through the present, no location within Bolton's home was approved for the lawful storage of classified information. At no point, including the period when Bolton had an accredited Skiff in his home, was Bolton authorized to store or transmit classified information on unclassified systems, such as an American online email account, a Google email account, a non-governmental commercial messaging application, or other non-governmental systems. From on or about April 2018 through at least August 2025, Bolton abused his position as national security advisor by sharing more than 1,000 pages of information about his day-to-day activities as the national security advisor, including information relating to the national defense classified as top secret. He shared those with two unauthorized individuals, namely individuals 1 and 2. It's like thing 1 and thing 2 from the Dr. Seuss books. I believe these refer to his wife and daughter, Bolton's wife and daughter. Bolton also unlawfully retained documents, writings, and notes relating to national defense, including information classified top secret, in his home in Maryland. Individual 1, whose identity is known to the grand jury, was related to Bolton I mean, really, the only people these could be is wife and daughter. Resided in Maryland, never held a U.S. security clearance, was not authorized to access, receive, or maintain classified information that Bolton shared related to his work as National Security Advisor. Individual 2, whose identity is also known to the grand jury, probably the daughter of Bolton, again, related to Bolton, never held a security clearance, not authorized to access, receive, or maintain classified information that Bolton shared related to his work as National Security Advisor. Bolton sent diary-like entries to individuals 1 and 2 that contained information classified top secret. Bolton wrote many of these diary-like entries by transcribing his handwritten notes from his day's activities into word processing documents, which he then sent electronically to individuals 1 and 2 through a commercial non-governmental messaging application. On other occasions, Bolton used his personal non-governmental email accounts, such as email accounts hosted by AOL and Google, to email information classified up to top secret to individuals 1 or 2 at their personal email accounts. Anyone doubt that the government's got the evidence to support these allegations? These extremely specific factual allegations. There's no ambiguity here, just like there isn't any ambiguity about James Comey's perjury or about Letitia James' mortgage fraud. The indictment continues. At no point did Bolton have authorization to store or transmit classified information that he sent to individuals 1 and 2, nor at any time did individuals 1 or 2 have authorization to know or store the classified information that Bolton gave to them. At some unknown time, but no later than August 2025, many of the diary-like entries from Bolton's time as National Security Advisor were printed and stored in Bolton's personal residence in Maryland. Digital copies of some of the diary-like entries that contained national defense information classified up to top secret were also stored on personal electronic devices used by Bolton, located in Bolton's residence. After Bolton's time as National Security Advisor ended in September 2019, Bolton's personal residence was not authorized to store classified information in physical or electronic format. On or about September 2019, U.S. government personnel retrieved all classified equipment and marked classified documents that were stored in Bolton's home Skiff. Bolton was told he could no longer store classified information at his home. At no point during Bolton's time as National Security Advisor, including when his home Skiff was decommissioned, did Bolton tell the U.S. government that he had sent national defense classified information to individuals 1 and 2 over commercial email and messaging services, or that such information was stored on personal electronic devices and in personal electronic accounts belonging to or accessible by himself and or individuals 1 and 2. These would be laptops, tablets, cloud services, and so forth. At some point between when Bolton left government service in September 2019 and July 2021, a cyber actor believed to be associated with the Islamic Republic of Iran, oh, good heavens, I hadn't even heard this part, hacked Bolton's personal email account. You think his password was mustache? And gained unauthorized access to classified and national defense information in that account, which Bolton had previously emailed to individuals 1 and 2 while he was National Security Advisor. A representative for Bolton notified the U.S. government of the hack in July 2021, but did not tell the government that the account contained national defense information, including classified information that Bolton had placed in the account from his time as National Security Advisor. Nor did Bolton's representative tell the government that Bolton had shared some of that national defense information, including classified information, with individuals 1 and 2 via personal email and non-governmental messaging applications. Executive Order 13526 governed the classification of national security information. Information in any form may be classified if, I'll skip over this, we'll just assume the president can classify whatever he wants. Let's see, classifications like top secret, secret, confidential. Information was top secret if unauthorized disclosure reasonably could be expected to cause exceptionally grave damage to national security. It was classified as merely secret if unauthorized disclosure reasonably could be expected to cause serious damage, but not exceptionally grave damage to national security, and information was classified as confidential if unauthorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause damage, not serious damage or exceptional damage, but damage to national security. Damage to national security meant harm to the national defense or foreign relations of the United States from the unauthorized disclosure of information, taking into account things like sensitivity, value, utility, and provenance. Provenance is the demonstrated source of the information. The classification marking no foreign indicates that information was not releasable to foreign nationals, and dissemination of that information was limited to United States persons. So no foreign nationals. The classification REL 2 indicated the information was releasable only to foreign nationals of specific countries, international organizations, or multinational forces. The classification REL to USA GBR indicated the information could only be released to nationals of the United States and Great Britain. Oh, our special relationship with Great Britain. The classification ORCON indicated dissemination and extraction of classified information was controlled by the originator. Let's see. Classification marked SI was an SCI control system, indicated the information was special intelligence derived from monitoring foreign communications. SI was intended to protect signals intelligence, including communications and electronics intelligence. HCS indicated the information was some sensitive human intelligence, human operations, spies, human spies, basically. All these forms of classified information were to be processed, stored, used, or discussed only within a skiff, this secured room, secured from eavesdropping and other forms of invasion, and only by individuals with appropriate security clearance. The National Institute of Standard and Technology, the NIST, defined a skiff as an area, room, group of rooms, buildings, or installation certified as meeting Director of National Intelligence Security Standards for the processing, storage, or discussion of sensitive compartmented information. So, for example, typically you're not allowed to bring a smartphone into a skiff. If you've ever been in a building that has a skiff, I have. Outside the skiff, what you'll find is a bunch of little lockers, temporary use lockers for holding things like laptops, tablets, smartphones that you're not allowed to bring into the skiff. So you can secure them just outside the room and then come back and get them when it's time. Information classified at any level could only be lawfully accessed by persons determined to be appropriate U.S. government officials eligible for access to classified information, who had signed and approved non-disclosure, received a security clearance, and had a need to know the classified information. The charges against John Bolton. Count 1. Counts 1 through 8. Transmission of national defense information. John Bolton, Robert Bolton II, lawfully having possession or access to, control, entrusted with information relating to national defense, which he had reason to believe could be used to injury of the U.S., willfully communicated, delivered, and transmitted, and caused to be communicated, delivered, and transmitted the same to a person not entitled to receive it, as indicated in the below counts. Bolton sent via his personal non-governmental email accounts or messaging application the information relating to national defense described below to his wife and daughter. Count 1, information about future attack by adversarial group, top secret. Count 2, reveals liaison partner sharing sensitive information with U.S. intelligence was secret. Count 3, reveals intelligence that a foreign adversary was planning a missile attack, top secret. Count 4, reveals intelligence about adversaries' knowledge of planned U.S. actions, top secret. Class 5, I'm just going to do the secret classifications. Top secret. Count 6, top secret. Count 7, top secret. Count 8, top secret. And now counts 9 through 18. The defendant, John Robert Bolton, having unauthorized access. So the first 8 counts were while he was NSA. Now he's no longer NSA. Did willfully retain classified information, failed to deliver it back to the United States. Count 9, I'm not going to describe each one. I'll just tell the classification. Count 9, top secret. 10, secret. 11, top secret. 12, top secret. 13, top secret. 14, top secret. 15, top secret. 16, top secret. 17, top secret. 18, top secret. And the grand jury for the District of Maryland further finds, upon conviction of the offenses, the defendant, John Bolton II, shall forfeit to the United States any property, real or personal, which constitutes or is derived from proceeds traceable to the offenses. So that would be all his book money gets reverted back to the U.S. If any of the property described above cannot be located, has been transferred, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or commingled with other property, the United States shall be entitled to forfeiture of substitute property. Well, if they can't get his book money, they'll take his house, his pension, and all of that stuff. All right, man. So that is John Bolton, and it is not looking good for Johnny Boy. Again, this is a very different legal dynamic, legal framework than was presented against Trump. For Trump, when they wanted to go after him, they had to pretend that Mar-a-Lago was worth less than a tenth of the market value assigned to it by sophisticated Wall Street banks who were lending money with Mar-a-Lago as security. So had every interest to get an accurate valuation of the property. In other cases, New York State had to pass a bill of attainder, a law targeted at a single individual where they created an exception to the expired statute of limitations, the exception existing for only 1 year for the sole purpose of being able to go after Donald Trump. So they had to make up laws and make up valuations, insane valuations to go after Trump. With guys like James Comey, perjury and obstruction, there's no question whether or not Comey committed perjury and obstruction. Even his defenders don't say he didn't do it. His defenders say, well, it's going to be hard to prove. Professional prosecutors wouldn't have brought this case. But what they're never able to say is that James Comey did not lie, did not obstruct. It's very obvious he did. Letitia James, her mortgage fraud is really incontestable. It's all there in the documentation. There's nothing complicated about the case. And in this Bolton case, again, the indictment itself is not evidence, but does anybody believe that with this degree of specificity, the number of pages of these documents, the nature of the information they contain, their classification, how they were transmitted, to whom they were transmitted, when they were transmitted, that the federal government doesn't actually have these facts? I mean, Bolton is screwed. Bolton is screwed. He doesn't have any chance on a real defense. Now, of course, for any of these people, James Comey, Letitia James, John Bolton, it's possible they get a far left progressive fascist judge who rigs the system to such an extent they can't really be prosecuted, or they get a far left progressive fascist jury that refuses to convict no matter what the evidence and the law is. That's all possible. But on the legal merits, these cases against Comey, James, and Bolton are open and shut cases of guilt. No question about that.